The salaries of public office bearers are set to be increased by 4.1% and 3.8% in different categories. The determination has been made by President Cyril Ramaphosa and is set to come into effect on the 1st of April 2026. Now, the increase follows the recommendation by the Independent Commission for Remuneration of Public Office Bearers. The increase of 4.1% applies to judges, magistrates, traditional leaders, and members of the independent constitutional institutions. The increase of 3.8% applies to members of the National Executive, members of Parliament, members of provincial executive councils, and members of provincial legislatures. Now, for more on this discussion, we are now joined by SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, and he joins us now via our video link. Mr. Vavi, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. Now, we know that President Cyril Ramaphosa has approved these increases for public office bearers. As SAFTU, what is your reaction?
Well, we have rejected that. We think that it is scandalous to increase his own salary with 3.8%, which actually means somewhere around 115,000 rands more than what he already earns. And that takes his salary to over 3.2 million rands. And normally we don't only look at the salary increase, but we look at the perks and other benefits he and his executive enjoys through what they call the cabinet handbook. The handbook offers them a further massive amounts through a flight, two homes in Cape Town and in Pretoria. And if you don't use those homes, you do get an allowance for that. A very high cost medical aid whilst our public hospitals are collapsing. A massive security cost, which alone for a minister costs between 2 to 4 million rands. Meaning that when you look at the salary of the minister, you're not only looking at about 2.8 million. You add all of these perks, it takes the total cost to the state somewhere between 5 and 7 million rands for minister. Getting a blue light, they're getting 24/7 security at home, whilst our people are being threatened by gangs, by criminals, vulnerable to all manner of crimes. So we think that a cabinet should have thought very carefully before granting these salary increases themselves. But there's a bigger issue that says, look, what are we paying these guys for? If you look at it from the economy perspective, our GDP is trapped in a stagnation. We either grow backward, meaning that we get some decline some year, or we're not getting about 1% growth. So why are we paying? Secondly, if you look at the job situation, the crisis tells us that we have about 43% unemployment rate, close 46% for the black people's unemployment rate, and about 49% for black women unemployment rate. For the youth, it goes to 64% and above. Why are we paying them for? If anything, we should be cutting the salaries so that at least they can compare not only in the size of the cabinet we have in South Africa, which is absolutely bloated at about 67 members of the executive, but also compare with the salaries of developed nations, which are paying less to their political principles than we do in most
And Mr. Vavi, I mean, what do you also make of the criticism, when it comes to this increase we are going to see come the 1st of April, where some are saying that it's actually above inflation. So what does this generally say to workers?
It's an insult to workers because already some 3 to 7 million workers are earning below even the initial minimum wage of 5,500. This is happening when the food basket in South Africa costs between 5.5 and 6,000 rands, meaning that even the working families, even the working people, actually form part of the 20 million South Africans who are missing a meal every day because they cannot afford it. Either they go home, they go to bed on an empty stomach, or they are forced to skip a breakfast or lunch, not because they are in some slimming program, but because they simply don't have means to put a plate of food for their table every time that is required. Now, in a country which have these levels of poverty, which have become the most unequal society in the whole world, and which have these rates of catastrophic levels of unemployment that themselves constitute what we normally call as the ticking bomb, you ought to be the most insensitive person to say, well, we are okay with about 7 million total package for a minister. This is totally irresponsible. We rejected this.
Yeah, and since you have rejected this, will you be challenging this increase? And is there a room for you to actually challenge this increase?
Where do you take that to? Because if we were to take this to the Constitutional Court, we know already what will happen. We once took a issue of workers where the East government had skipped out and pulled out of a signed agreement with the unions in the public sector, and the Constitutional Court simply agreed with the state that they are right to favor austerity program over the commitment they have made to pay the salaries of workers in terms of the agreement they have signed with the state. How much more now when the judges themselves will be conflicted on this particular issue? We stand no chance. This is a bourgeoisie capitalist state. It will always favor the moneyed class against the interest of ordinary people. Now, talking about the judiciary, we must make a distinction, by the way. Our SAFTU statement does make a distinction that says the lower ranking members of the judiciary, the magistrates in particular, do deserve not only the 4.1% that they're going to be receiving, but they ought to have received much more bigger. In fact, they are demanding a total review of their salaries because as we speak, the magistrates are earning 90,000 rand, sometimes even lower than the state prosecutors. This is totally an insult. They are overloaded. Every magistrate faces up to 100 cases every year. And that's why that lack of motivation, that demoralization on the part of the magistrate should be contributing immensely to the crisis that South Africa is facing now, where our criminal justice system is basically on its knees.